What's up, y'all? It's Jerron Eitner back again with another episode of the Quasar Qult podcast. This is episode 2. This is a live podcast that we do on Facebook Live over on my Jerron Eitner page and the Quasar Qult. These videos are later posted on YouTube and then also distributed as a podcast on wherever you listen to podcasts at. The Quasar Qult is a brand new blog / network that I'm building that's powered by Star Trek Multimedia that basically focuses on dope content. That's kind of what we do. And most of the posts that we post and talk about in this podcast are related to things that I posted in the previous week. With that said, my Facebook got flagged the previous week. Yes, I got shut down on Facebook this past week. I'm not going to really go into details, but it did involve some nudity and some poor decisions on my part. And so my Facebook account has been iced for the last 3 days. I just got it back yesterday, and I've been trying to ease back into it because at the end of the day, Facebook's wild. And speaking of Facebook, which is a perfect segue into our first topic, Facebook did get shut down for about 6 hours earlier on this week. Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram. It was a whole entire thing. Very telling. That's one thing I'll say. That all this is very telling because, first of all, me personally, I make a lot of my money via Facebook and Instagram. I do social media promotion for a lot of artists and clients. I solicit business through there. So all in all, it's like when Facebook shut down, I was kind of lost for a second. Even though I have a website and I have other ways that you can communicate with me, losing that form of communication kind of messed me up. And fortunately, I do live in a first world country, so I'm not as injured in the situation that compared to other countries who rely solely on WhatsApp to communicate. I think there's a lot of third world countries that use 99% of the communication involves WhatsApp. So when Facebook went down, their entire country was just not able to communicate. Me, I just wasn't able to communicate through that channel for 5 hours, and I was freaking out about it. But like I said, I make a lot of money through there. I'm saying I network a lot. My inbox is always popping. All that was shut down for a day, and it gave me a second to really reflect upon the effect that social media has had on us as human beings. Fortunately, I was born 1984, so I'm one of those zillennial kids that happened to experience a life before the internet and before computers, and kind of saw that all develop and grow. And just the exponential growth of technology, I got to witness all that. It's different from being born into this generation where it's all just kind of there already. And for that reason, I have a slight advantage when it comes to perceiving things like this, when it comes to social media, Facebook, MySpace, etc., so forth. And what's interesting is that everything works in cycles. Everything. And Facebook is, I think, near the end of its cycle. What's interesting about Facebook, though, is that it's so ingrained into our society at this point. It has 2.8 billion users that use this site. And what's fascinating about those numbers is that, a lot, like I said earlier, a lot of these numbers are people who live in poorer countries who don't really have any other means of communication other than Facebook and WhatsApp and Messenger. And it's just really fascinating how much Zuckerberg and his engine has really just ingrained themselves into society, more so than any other previous internet incantation that I can think of. Way more impactful than Netscape or AOL or MySpace. Facebook is here to stay, as long as they don't shut down again, I guess. But even then, I feel like Facebook is so useful and so integrated into our society that it's too big to fail at this point. Even if Zuckerberg came out and is exposed that he was chilling on Epstein's island dealing with kids or something like that, Facebook would still remain. They would just remove him as CEO. That's how big it has become at this point. And a tip to artists, it's funny because a couple people hit me up when Facebook went down, and they're like, "Oh man, I really wish I got that website." And I'm like, "Yeah, you probably should have," because that's kind of going back to the old school ways of communication. And it sounds weird even calling it old school, just because of the fact that the advent of the internet and the exponential growth of it has only been over the last 20 years. But having an old school website and taking emails and having a mailing list, man, that's like dinosaur stuff compared to like what we're doing nowadays with Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok and all this stuff. But if you have a mailing list and you can still send emails out to people, that's going to get you further than anything else you can do in terms of artists online. Having a mailing list, it's literally just like a direct communication, and it's a lot better than dealing with algorithms or, you know, all your stuff shutting down. Like, I know a lot of artists who have their music on SoundCloud, and they, you know, just put up on SoundCloud because, one, it's really easy to do that, and two, you know, it's free. But the thing you don't understand is that if Michael J. SoundCloud, I don't know who owns SoundCloud, decides to shut down SoundCloud, then all of a sudden, you know, all your music is gone. And that's a scary thought. This is something that I've always thought about even before Spotify and the streaming era. It was just like, you know, you have to really be protective about how you put your music out there, because especially with time and exponential growth and just the way that society evolves, you know, it's really hard to hold on to something for so long. Even nowadays, like, they're still trying to figure out ways to preserve data forever. At this point, I think you can preserve data for something like 60, 70 years. I want to say that film is actually, I think it lasts like something like 100 years, give or take, if it's preserved properly in like the proper temperatures. But even with digital storage, you know, only lasts a few decades before it starts to like get glitchy and you have to transfer it over to new stuff. DVDs, CDs, all these are finite forms of storage. And one of the cool things about the internet is the fact that, one, information never really dies. You know, if something's on the internet, it's the code is somewhere there. There's always the running joke about trying to remove stuff from the internet. That's not a thing. You can't really remove anything from the internet without a whole team behind it. I mean, I guess Google can do it, but you got to pay them pretty big for that. But I guess my whole point is that with the rise of social media and the rise of all these streaming networks, we get to a point where we kind of just gave up control of our music and gave up control of our own personal growth and who we are as artists, to the point where it's like we're a slave to Spotify, we're a slave to DistroKid, we're a slave to Facebook and a slave to TikTok, and we don't really have a place that we can call our own, where people can go to and share your stuff. And this is why I always encourage websites over anything else, because that's yours, right? It might be owned or hosted by WordPress or GoDaddy or whoever, but that's still yours. It has your name on it. You know, JeronEichner.com. You can go to that, and you don't have to go through Facebook. You don't have to go through Instagram. You don't go through any of that shit. You know what I'm saying? And it might be a little bit more effort involved in terms of getting your fans to get there, et cetera, so forth, but it's so much worth it in the long run, especially if you have a strong mailing list to where you can just send out emails to 3,000, 4,000, 10,000 people at a drop of a dime. You're reaching more people than any Facebook post you'll ever make, unless you have millions of followers. And that's my word on that. So, you know, I'm not here to, I guess this is a long show because, you know, I do sell websites, I do sell press kits and all this stuff. But the point is, you know, get your shit together, bro, because we don't know what's going to happen here in the future moving forward with all these streaming sites, and all these apps, to where the more ubiquitous it becomes, the less likely it is that the music that you put on there, or art or whatever, really belongs to you. You know, there's also the terms of service. You know what I'm saying? Like, people don't read that. People don't read the terms of services when they post their stuff. And somewhere, somehow, some way, you know, there's probably something in those clauses saying that when you do this, you're no longer like in possession of it anymore. And Facebook shutting down should be an eye opener to a lot of people, where it's like, if your entire career is based off your Facebook page or off your Instagram, you got to figure out a way to convert some of those fans into new followers, because otherwise, you know, you're at the will of Zuckerberg or whoever else is running whatever app at whatever time, and that can be super stressful, which I'm sure that you guys dealt with earlier this week when you couldn't access your page and you couldn't make your sales and you couldn't make your connects. You know what I'm saying? Open your eyes. Anyways, moving on. The next topic is Dave Chapelle. So a lot of people are talking about David Chapelle and his new stand-up called The Closer. And it was interesting when I actually started watching this stand-up the other night. My girlfriend and one of the first things he said when he started to stand up was he was like, "Oh, this is gonna be my last stand up for a while," and immediately when he said that, I was like, "Oh man, he's about to go in," and I almost kind of feel like this whole stand up was almost like a bet, and like the bet was like, "Hey, Dave." I don't know, maybe it was a Bill Burr or something like that, because that sounds like something they would do, where it's like, "Hey, Dave, I bet you can't get canceled. You're too popular. You're too good. Everybody loves you. You know what I'm saying? You could say whatever you want, and no one's ever gonna cancel you." And I think that Dave tried to take that bet, and that's basically what we're seeing with the closer in terms of even the name, the closer. You know what I'm saying? That's like the end. I really think that Dave Chappelle's goal was to try to get canceled, and I don't think it's gonna work. I think that Dave Chappelle is in the same category as like Eminem and a couple other people who just can't be canceled because of the amount of controversy and the amount of effort they put into their careers, to where you just reach a certain point where you just can't be canceled. Like, I think Elton John's in that list. You can't cancel Elton John. You know what I'm saying? You just can't. And so it's one of those things where I watched the stand up and I was listening to these jokes, and to be honest, like in terms of like the whole stand up as a whole, it wasn't like that great, like compared to his other stand ups. Like, it didn't have, like, the jokes weren't like incredible, like mind blowing jokes. They're more like jokes that were just shocking, jokes that had you go, oh, you know what I'm saying? And he there was nobody left untargeted in the stand up, to where he was attacking Jewish people, black people, LGBTQs. I think he went after the baby controversy. Like, it was very clear that Dave Chappelle had a mission with this stand up, and I think that the mission had mostly to do with seeing how far he can push himself before his fans and the powers that be try to cancel him. So, like, after the stand up came out, like the art, I'm sure you're already seeing this everywhere, but there's articles everywhere saying, "Oh, cancel Dave Chappelle this, cancel Dave Chappelle that." People were canceling their Netflix account, et cetera, so forth. First of all, Netflix is not going to get rid of Dave Chappelle. That's just not happening. They're not removing any of his stand-ups. They're not going to do any of that. I absolutely guarantee it, and I can tell you why. Because Dave Chappelle's worth too much money, he's too valuable, and he's too iconic. You just can't cancel a man like that. Now, I feel like even at this point, even with his last stand-up, which, by the way, he won awards for, he was trying to push that threshold, and he was walking that line. But with this particular stand-up, I think he's actually on the other side of that threshold at this point, where he's like, I want to see how my fans feel if I piss them off. Will my fans still rock with me? Are they still fans? Are they still fair weather? And it really is like a whole psychological, like, lesson that we're kind of getting from this stand-up that we're watching, in terms of, they love you when you're popping, right? That's kind of how the phrase goes. But with Dave Chappelle, it's like, if you look at his career, he even said it himself. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've been through that shit. You know what I'm saying? I walked away from $50 million. You know what I'm saying? I'm in a category that many people, that not a lot of people can really say that they ever been in. You know what I'm saying? Can you walk away from $50 million and go to Africa and go do all the stuff that Dave Chappelle did? Chances are you will not. So it's like he kind of derives from an elite mentality, where it's like, it's not about the money for him at this point. Like, Dave Chappelle's not worried about his next paycheck. He's not worried about the food on his table. Hell, he's kicking it in Yellow Springs, Ohio, with his family on a farm, chilling, multimillionaire, set for life. His family is good. His kids are good. He could never make a stand-up ever again, do any piece of art ever again, and he's good. So he has nothing to lose, is basically what I'm trying to say. So when I watched the stand-up, I really had that in mind, especially when I started to hear the tone of the jokes and where he was trying to go with it. It's like, man, he's not even really trying to be funny. He's just trying to piss people off. He's trying to get canceled. He's trying to test the waters and see if someone as beloved as Dave Chappelle can get canceled. And as I said at the top of this little bit, he cannot. Dave Chappelle is uncancelable, simply because he is so beloved. And people are gonna try. for sure. I'm sure the LGBTQ community is up in arms. I'm sure the Jewish community is up in arms, and I'm sure everybody is pissed off, right? But that's also the beauty of comedy, and the reason why we love comedians so much, because comedians are known to push the threshold. At least the really good ones, anyways. Like the ones that we talk about that stand the test of time are the ones who push the threshold to the max. You know what I'm saying? The George Carlins, the Richard Pryors, the Eddie Murphys, the Dave Chappelles. These are people who have looked at society and found that comedy in it, but then also found the tragedy in it, and they managed to articulate it in a way that is palpable to the average audience. Now, just because it's palpable doesn't mean that it's something that you want to hear, right? But typically speaking, comedians are the most honest art form, or comedy in general is the most honest art form that you can have out there. I always admire comedians for the fact that it's very rare that you have like fake comedians, right? Like comedians who are just propped up doing it for the clout, like rappers do, or be bullshit about stuff they don't do. Now, don't get me wrong, there are comedians out there who storytell and tell stories that may not be true. But I'm talking about like the overall energy and like the way they carry themselves, etc. and so forth. There's not a lot of fake funk in the whole comedian world. And when you're on the top of the food chain, like when you're running with like the Bill Burrs and the Dave Chappelles, etc. and so forth, there's an air of responsibility to maintain a sense of integrity and not cross the line between that your integrity and selling out. And I mean, we've seen it time and time again where there's many comedians who just came and went because of the fact that they don't hold on to that integral core that makes comedy what it is. I mean, a perfect example is Carlos Mencia. You know what I'm saying? Where is Carlos Mencia at? No one knows. Carlos Mencia is gone. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that he was stealing jokes. And if you're stealing jokes, you know what I'm saying, you're breaking the artistic integrity in the comedian code, the comedy code, or whatever you want to call it. And the comedy code is fierce. Like, it's a stronger code than any other art form that I could possibly think of, because of the fact that there's more responsibility on the individual than any other art form. Like if you're just like if you're a rapper out there, especially if you're like a rapper signed to a label or whatever, there's not like a lot of responsibility on you to have a sense of integrity. It's just more about making hit singles or just rapping over beats and just doing things that will get you the likes and the clicks. But when you're a comedian and you have that strong voice, or even if you don't have a voice and you're just trying to figure it out, the secret really comes down to your integrity and like the things that you say. Like, do you stand by them, and will you die for them? And I keep bringing up Bill Burr because Bill Burr is probably one of the biggest examples of a comedian who is just so true to his values. Norm Macdonald's another example, rest in peace. These comedians are comedians who just like understand the assignment when it comes down to telling your story in a way that no one else can. And that's something that I talk about all the time, where I tell this to all the artists. I tell this to basically every client, artist, business partner that I ever worked with, ever in my career. I always tell them the same shit, where the secret comes down to telling the story that no one else can. I made a post about this the other day about the Squid Game. Squid Game, the reason why it's so successful is because the story is so unique. And the story is so unique is because it's based off of the childhood experiences of the writer, which means it's a story that only he can tell. Like, no one else can tell the Squid Game in the capacity that it's told. I'm sure people are going to try to at this point. I mean, you're going to see all kinds of Squid Game clones moving forward. But the idea... Ooh, sorry. The whole idea is that if... you're out here trying to tell stories. Tell your story. Don't tell the story you heard from somebody else. Don't tell the story that you saw on Facebook. Don't tell the story that you heard on TikTok or any of that crap. Like, that's the biggest problem that I see, is that people don't know how to tell their own story. The thing about this is that you probably right now have a very interesting story that only you can tell and articulate in a particular way. The question is, how do you tell it? And it goes beyond just like writing words together that rhymes, or even drawing a picture or writing a script. There's a sense of putting your heart into it, a sense of building something from your soul and something that's true to you. And at the end of the day, it should be something that you love. And you know, the common phrase is that, you know, artists, we're our own biggest critic. But that shouldn't apply when it comes to storytelling. That's not the same thing. Like, if you're in the studio and you're making a beat, you're making a song, the beat's hot, you rap over it, you write a cool little verse, and you spit it, and you're on there, you listen to it, and it sounds like trash. That's not the same as you putting in the effort to create the song. Like, the creation process is more important than anything else when it comes to being artists. And a lot of these artists just want to get to the end. They just want to get to the finish line. And circling back to Dave Chapelle, you know, Dave Chapelle, he understood, or he understands, that the journey to get to where he's at is what it's all about. He's earned his stripes to be able to say whatever the fuck he wants. And many comedians, they fear that. They fear reaching that point to where you're scrutinized. And that's why you see like all these comedians kind of disappear after they hit like a certain level of fame, because when you're doing comedy, it's probably the most vulnerable and the most exposed art form that you can do, because you're out there trying to make people laugh. You're trying to make people feel like a very particular certain type of way, which is crazy. Like, that doesn't really apply to other forms of music. Maybe music a little bit in terms of like, oh, I'm gonna make a sad song to make people sad and make people cry. But comedy, like especially with stand-up, it's like people go and sit down in front of you and they listen to you talk for the sole purpose of you making them laugh. And what's crazy about that, typically speaking, is that comedy is subjective. So it's not like everything that you say, there's no blueprint or no formula or no mathematical equation that is going to guarantee that you're going to make everybody in this room laugh. And it's a little bit different when it comes to music and other art forms, because you know, a beautiful piece of art is a beautiful piece of art. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a reason why the Mona Lisa is the Mona Lisa. It's a beautiful piece of art. And sure, I'm sure there's somebody out there who's like, oh, dog, the Mona Lisa is trash, bro. So trash. You know what I'm saying? But objectively speaking, like the vast majority of the world would agree that the Mona Lisa is an amazing piece of art and one of the greatest pieces of art of all time. This is objective. But if you ask somebody who their favorite comedian is, you're going to get a wide range of answers. And it's going to be very, very rare that you find people who say the same answers. Even if you ask them objectively, like, who do you think the greatest comedian of all time is? Right? Like, some people are going to say George Carlin, some people are going to say Richard Pryor, some people are going to even say, like, Steve Martin, some people are going to say, like, I don't know, there's a whole list of people, but it doesn't quite apply to like other genres and other art forms. Like, if I ask you who the best rappers of all time, there's a pretty solid list there where it's like, you know, Jay-Z, Eminem, Kanye, you know what I'm saying, Nas. Like, there's a pretty legit list there that with credentials and record sales and all these things that like kind of support it. There's no laugh meter when it comes to comedy. And so, circling back again, once again, to Dave Chapelle and his whole stand-up The Closer, he went into this knowing that all this shit is subjective. All of this is subjective. There's no right or wrong answers in any of this shit that we do. We're humans just trying to figure this shit out as we go along. And the fact that people are trying to cancel him based off of subjective opinions is one of the the whole wizard behind the cloak, Wizard of Oz type of shit that's about this stand up that's so beautiful is that like how do you cancel people off of subjective opinions? Not only just subjective opinions that are comedy. Not only just subjective opinions that are comedy, subjective opinions that are comedy that he was paid to do. Like, this is this man's living, right? It's not like he's on the side of the street saying this shit. Like, Netflix paid him, he put it together. Netflix approved it. They had to have, right? So, really, a lot of this kind of falls along Netflix, too, for airing it, which I'm sure they're catching a lot of heat for. But the idea is that we are so quick to cancel people right now. Like, cancel culture is like all-time high right now. Matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if I get canceled if I ever blow up, because of the fact that I have plenty of tweets and posts and videos where people can go back and be like, damn, he said that, canceled. It happened to Kevin Hart, right? Like, they tried to cancel Kevin Hart over a tweet that man did 10 years ago, and it was a joke on Twitter. So, like, I think about my career, and it's like, bruh, brosive, Abraham. Like, I just know that if I ever cop a major deal, I am scrubbing myself from the internet. But I said earlier that you can't really delete yourself from the internet, especially nowadays. There's always data somewhere. Once it's up there, it's up there. You know what I'm saying? So it's like Dave Chapelle, he's trying to make a point, and the point is that if you can cancel Dave Chapelle, then it's pretty much over. Like, the whole idea of society and what we're trying to do as human beings, it's pretty much over if you're canceling one of the greatest comedians of all time for telling jokes and doing his job. It's different from DaBaby, which came up in a topic, because DaBaby went outside of his realm to try to say something that was out of line. And it's like DaBaby's on the stage, and he should just be rapping, right? And if he was rapping about gay people and doing this and that, I don't think a lot of people would notice, because most people don't be listening to lyrics anyways. But it's the fact that he broke his bubble to make a statement outside of that bubble, right? Like Lil Nas X talks about gay stuff all the time and talks about all kinds of shit, and people are trying to cancel him for the stuff that he does outside that bubble. Whatever he does in the art form is the art form, right? Like, whatever you do inside that little bubble of art, you can do the wildest shit, and it's called art. And I think that's the beauty of what Dave Chappelle's trying to do. Like, this, at the end of the day, with The Closer and his Netflix special, it's all art. This is all performance art. And you want to cancel him over performance art, that's wild. He's just doing his job. Let me know what you think in the comments. This is the Quasar Qult Podcast, episode 2. It's called Canceled. That's the name of this episode because, they're trying to cancel my guy. But at the end of the day, Dave Chappelle, he is a legend. And you can't cancel legends. You could try. They have tried before in the past. But if you're able to be canceled because you're legendary, it's because you weren't legendary. That's a deeper discussion. I know that sounded very surface level and kind of cheesy, but it's a deeper discussion. Anyways, moving forward, next topic I want to talk about is this stupid ass Venom movie, Let There Be Carnage. So, disclaimer, I haven't even really watched this movie. I've seen some of these scenes from this movie. I read the plot dialogue. I watched the after credits scene, which is what the most of this video is about. And I didn't need to watch the movie because I already knew what to expect. I saw the first one. I'm just like, all right, cool, whatever. Like, whatever, man, whatever. So, spoilers. You turn on the spoiler button here. I need to get. This is why I need a soundboard. I don't really use soundboards or anything like that because I'm just way too charismatic in front of the camera to have a soundboard. I'm just fucking dope. So, but I would have a soundboard that would go spoiler, 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 spoiler. It'd be a spoiler warning. So if you have not seen the Venom Let There Be Carnage movie, you don't want to hear any of the shit I'm about to say. Spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. Fast forward to somewhere over like here on the timeline probably. And yeah. So Venom movie. Like I said, I didn't watch this fucking movie. I read the plot, saw some scenes. I saw like the main fight scene, and I saw the after credit scene. And I was like, cool. That's all I needed to take from this movie. Basically, what they tried to do with this movie is they took the serious tone in the first movie and they turned it into a bromance. Which, honestly, very smart decision on their part, because the problem with the first movie was that the tone was just too dark, and they had like this weird like balance between, or attempted balance between, oh, we're this campy comedy movie, but we're also really dark and evil. And it's like, it just didn't land. It just didn't land. So Andy Serkis, who, by the way, Andy Serkis career is crazy, crazy career. This dude has done Golem and has been in the MCU, and now he's directing Venom. That's crazy. I didn't know you could that's a path that you could take, but he did that. So Andy Serkis, he saw this problem in this film, and he knew that the tone needed to change. So he kind of turned it into this whole bromance between Eddie and Venom, which works. I think it works very well. Like I said, I haven't watched the whole movie. I just watched particular scenes. So maybe it didn't work, but from what I saw and what I heard, it seems to work. But basically, they glossed over everything else in terms of like Carnage's transformation. I guess there's like a dude on there with powers that just comes out of nowhere. But the thing about this, and what's really interesting is when I actually think about this and I say this out loud, is that Sony has been trying to create this, I guess, Spider-Man universe for a minute now. Like ever since Amazing Spider-Man, they've been hinting at creating a universe where all these movies are interconnected. And when they first announced the first Venom movie, and they said that the first Venom movie had nothing to do with Spider-Man, I'm like, what are you guys doing? What are you doing? That's the dumbest shit I ever heard. And sure enough, that movie's dumb as hell. I hate the first Venom movie. I'm sorry, I hate it. I know I made a billion dollars, but that movie was terrible. And the reason why it was so terrible is because it completely just spits in the face of the mythos of Venom and Spider-Man, etc. and so forth. And I know that this is one of the biggest complaints of this movie, because I read the comments, I listen to what people say, I have my own opinions about this, etc. and so forth. So I know that this is something that they're trying to fix. And so, flash forward to the end of this movie. Spoiler. The movie ends with Venom and Eddie, I guess, transporting via Doctor Strange, via Wanda, via Loki and Kang. We don't know. We just know that something happens, and they just take this dude and they just drop him into the MCU. So now he's in the MCU. Turns on the TV, he sees Tom Holland, Spider-Man, and he's like, "Oh, bro, I hate this guy." And then they roll credits. So, what? First of all, it's very lazy, and I mean, obviously, they're. I'm hoping that they find a way to explain this, and it has to do with maybe Doctor Strange just pulling all these different people from these different universes, which really is the only logical explanation for this. But I will say this, and this is actually really genius writing, whoever decided to come up with this idea. The line that he says before this happens, before he gets transported to the MCU, is actually really, really dope. So what he says is he's like, I'm going to show you, did you know that all of our symbiote Venom suits or whatever are connected to a hive mind across multiverses, right? So then he's like, oh, I can show you a fraction of what I know, and it would blow your little mind, whatever. So he tries to show him, and then the event happens to where he gets transferred to the MCU, and it's like, cool. But that little line is actually a pretty big tell, because basically what they're trying to insinuate here is that, and this is all speculation and theories based off of what I know and what I've read, is that what Venom was actually referring to was Spider-Man 3, involving Topher Grace's Venom, and that Topher Grace's Venom got his ass kicked by that universe's Spider-Man, and that the whole idea is that Venoms can communicate or feel or just know stuff across these multiverses. So this is the reason why when Venom saw Peter Parker on TV, you can see his tendrils start to flip out. he's having a natural reaction because basically the short of it is that all Venoms had beef with all Spider-Men across all multiverses. It's a very compelling theory that can lead to a lot of awesome stuff later on down the line, especially if they decide to blow the doors open with this multiverse and they bring back Tobey Maguire and they bring back Andrew Garfield and they have 5 different Spider-Man movies, which I almost guarantee they're going to do. It sets up a lot of interesting stuff. So at the very least, the Spider-Man movie, the Venom movie, Let There Be Carnage, sets up interesting stuff. The movie itself, just like I said, I didn't even try to watch it. It didn't pull me in. And this is from somebody who is a massive Spider-Man fan. And one of my favorite characters in Spider-Man is Carnage. Maximum Carnage comic book series and video game is Fire AF. Just super fuego. Probably one of my favorite comic book series of all time. But they ruined all that shit now. It's all gone. It's just all gone now. Because I know Carnage dies at the end of this movie. And the fact that it's just not there because the whole Maximum Carnage thing was based off, the fact that Carnage was a suit that was born from Venom and Venom was born from Spider-Man, so there's a whole connection. It's just a mess. But I'm still gonna watch the next Spider-Man movie, probably. Well, I am. That's guaranteed. No Way Home. I'm gonna watch it. But the rumor has it is that the sixth Sinister in there might be Venom, which would be wild. So basically, what's confirmed at this point would be Electro, Sandman, Green Goblin, Doc Ock. Who am I missing? Sandman, Doc Ock, Venom. No, I'm missing somebody. I can't. Doesn't matter. Anyways, the point is that the next movie is going to be lit. And the whole plan for Sony, really what it comes down to, is that Sony is trying to create their own. I mean, they announced it like a couple months ago. They said that we're creating a Spider-Man multimedia universe, and we're connecting all this stuff together. So they just had to figure out how to get freaking Venom to the MCU, and they're just like, we're just gonna just teleport him. We'll figure it out in the back end. I'm sure we have an excellent writer who's gonna connect it all together. It's all good. But I digress. Let me know what you guys think about the Venom movie, Dave Chapelle, and Facebook. All these topics have been posted on the Quasar Qult blog, and we'll be making more and more posts on a daily basis. We do post every day, but like I said, you probably haven't seen any posts over the last week or so because I got blocked on Facebook for some scandalous shit. So I couldn't post on Facebook. So you might not have seen the recent posts that we made on there, but they're still up there, and we're gonna be continuing to post on Quasar Qult, and it would be dope. So if you want to get on the Quasar Qult, go check out the website. There's actually a submission link on there where you can send me some music or send me whatever, and I'll check it out. We are trying to pick up steam. This week kind of messed me up because I had a momentum and I kind of lost it, but we're gonna get it right back. But pretty soon here, I think in next week, we're actually gonna try and give away a press release / bio for the website. So stay tuned for that. It's gonna be like a contest. We're gonna start giving away cash prizes. We're gonna start giving away like free videos. It's gonna be crazy. Quasar Qult is a new revolution powered by Starstruck Multimedia, and we are here to stay, baby. Yeah, I promise I won't get bored and end the website like I did with the creator. I promise you. I promise you. Anyways, we do appreciate you watching and listening to these podcasts. The podcast will be available in edited form, meaning I'm taking out all the coughs and crickles and whatever. It will be available on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts. I don't know, wherever you listen to podcasts at, it's up. It'll be up quick. That's the dope thing about podcasts, is that you can get podcasts up like that. So this will probably be up maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, but it will be up pretty damn quick. With that said, make sure you like, follow, subscribe, do all the stuff that we do, and we'll be back once again next week with another episode. We're gonna keep it weekly for now. Like, I thought about going daily. I was like, I should go daily, but then I thought about it. I was like, nah, y'all don't deserve that. Not yet, anyways. But maybe if we get these numbers up, we might go daily. You know what I'm saying? Wink, wink. I'm winking at you. We'll see. But as of right now, we're going weekly. Plus, I got a lot of stuff going on. So, yeah, shameless promo time. Shameless promo time. So, we got a lot of stuff coming up right now. Like a grip a lot of. So, we're dropping a single here soon for my album, The Setting Sun. Actually, I don't think we're even dropping a single. I think we're just going to drop the album and just like kind of write it that way. But the album is in its final stages of being completed. It's coming out this, and it'll be available somewhere. I'm not even sure yet. We have a release show. It's not even a release show. It's a listening party, and I named it that on purpose because calling it a release show insinuates that the album will be dropping. But we might Kanye this shit and just keep doing release shows, right? Who knows? Listening parties. Sorry. Listening party will be at Thunder Canyon Brewery on November 14th, which is a Sunday evening. It's gonna be an earlier show. We're trying to work out some meals for y'all, some meal tickets for the first like 50 people who buy tickets or whatever. You'll get a copy of the album, maybe other cool stuff, t-shirts, stuff like that. We're also going to be doing a sock and toiletry drive that is sponsored in part by Soul Revival Inc., who is a wonderful nonprofit organization that be doing really cool stuff. So stay tuned for that. Also, obviously, the elephant in the room is my goddamn movie, The Bond. Still coming, still working on it. Right now, working on sound right now. Sound's going great. Still doing color, but we're trucking along. We're trucking along on this film. And we're still looking for a December release. I think at this point, December 19th is the day. I don't want to say that out loud, but we're saying it out loud. Puts a lot of pressure on me, and my heart kind of dropped a little bit as I said that. December 19th, Sunday, Harkins Theater, is the day that we're trying to do this damn premiere. Now, with the premiere, the film will premiere, but it won't. I mean, maybe. Kind of depends on what happens in the next couple months. But the film won't be available to watch yet. We're just going to premiere it, let the homies watch it, let the cast and crew watch it, sell some tickets, make some bread real quick. There will probably be things that I'm going to want to change after watching it on a big-ass screen, even though we're going to try and watch it beforehand on a big-ass screen. But watching it in the theaters, I know I'm going to want to make some changes. So we're going to do that. And it'll hopefully, ideally, it will be out and available for download and DVDs and Blu-rays before the end of the year, like no matter what. But I'm also me, and if you ever work with me, I get kind of wild, so it could take a long ass time. Who knows? But I know the movie's coming. It's great. I shouldn't say it's gonna take a long ass time because that probably makes you feel like it's not coming. It's coming. Trust me, dog. It's coming. It's gonna be dope. It's gonna be cray cray. It's gonna be cray cray into a JJ. Can I even say that? Oh no, I just said that. Anyways, podcast done basically. So yeah, thanks for watching Quasar Qult. We'll be back again from the compound. That's the flashing sign in the corner. Oh, wrong hand. Flashing sign in the corner right there that I bought at Walmart. Took a long time to actually put that together. Like, for some reason I thought it was gonna be super easy, but like, nah, that was like a whole ass thing. You gotta put together the individual letters and like kind of. Anyways, I digress. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of the Quasar Qult. We'll be back again with a lot more content for you guys. Love, likes, follow, subscribe, share, all that crap. We'll see you in the near future. Stay Quasar-y. That's not even a phrase, but just keep it 100. Peace.